What a week. Mass shootings, police brutality, classified documents found everywhere, treachery at the Justice Department, and today is Holocaust Remembrance Day. Welcome to MOMocrats MOMochat, part of the Demcast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz with Karoli and Aliza Worthington of crooksandliars.com. And I almost feel like we need to pat ourselves on the back for just getting through this week. I mean,
oh, are we through it? I wasn't sure if we've gotten through it yet.
I'm not quite through it yet.
Have they released that video in Memphis yet?
I don't know if they have or not. I honestly don't want to see it. I'm sorry. I
don't want to see
my
it
imagination.
Now you have to educate. I told you about something you didn't know about. What are we talking about in Memphis?
Tyree Nichols, who was essentially murdered by 5 cops.
Oh, I did know this. Oh my God. I didn't realize it was Memphis. Okay.
Yeah. Beaten to death. So,
and
they're supposed to release the body cam footage, which is going to be brutal.
So horrendous.
Oh, God,
I mean, the reason why they've immediately charged these officers, aside from the fact that they're not white, is that this video is so terribly horrendous, and they are just bracing themselves for civil unrest when people see how horrendous it is.
Yep.
So
it's bad.
Yeah.
It's very bad. So
the description has been terrible. And their police chief, who, seems to be on the ball, a Black female police chief, has been doing interviews today, and just her description of how horrible this video is. I mean, she seems to be doing the right thing. When you look at other cities where they just hem and they haw and they don't release anything and they don't really punish the officers involved. But I mean, it's cop culture. This should not be happening. And she describes this as not even something that escalated. It was something that was immediate at the traffic stop. They just started beating up on this poor man.
Right. And that's what I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see somebody getting beaten to death.
I can't watch it in movies when I know it's fake. I don't want to see it for real.
Right.
Well, and then, people are urging us not to share it, which I understand that, if you're not, it's
traumatizing.
It's traumatizing. It's traumatizing, to members of the Black community, and for white people, it's violent porn. It's
right. Yeah. And that is what it is. And the cops in this case were Black, so that makes it doubly traumatizing to the Black community.
Yeah, that's especially traumatizing. So
exactly,
white people sharing it don't have the Black community's best interests at heart in any way, shape, or form. So I don't want to see it. I don't want to see.
I don't either.
My friends sharing it, my colleagues. I don't want to see it.
Yeah,
know what you're doing. Know what you're doing if you share this video.
Yeah,
right.
Disgusting.
And then speaking of body cam footage, should we just touch on the fact that they released the Paul Pelosi body cam footage today?
Yeah. Oh, did they? I knew they were going to. I haven't seen it. I've been so out of it.
I mean, right-wingers basically forced this to happen because they were so vile in all of their invented, it was a gay tryst, blah, blah, blah. And then you see
Elon Musk.
Oh, Elon Musk. Yeah. Where is Elon Musk now that you see the video? So
he's in Congress.
without describing it all, because some of it, right? But when Pelosi comes to the door, when the cops ring the doorbell or knock on the door or whatever they do, he's roped to the attacker. So he's roped
by his wrists.
Yeah. To the attacker, and so they both have their hand on this hammer, right? And the attacker pulls it out of Pelosi's hand and then hits him over the head with it, and that
in front of the cop.
in front of the cops, right? The cops said, "Put down the hammer," like he's going to comply, and he just whacked him
Yeah.
instead. And they also released the footage of the guy breaking into the back door so that to dispel any idea that he was invited in some way.
Right.
And they also released the 911
Yeah.
tape. So they have all of these things together, and the 911 tape on its own is admittedly confusing because Pelosi was trying to finesse them into coming without actually saying, "I'm being held hostage," because the guy was
I
right
don't
there.
know
He was
how
right there. Yeah.
Right.
cool, you know?
Yeah. And so, he basically said, like, at one point, he tried to get to that point by just asking if the Capitol Police were there, or if they were coming. And, that just to kind of get that in there, that they weren't, that they weren't there,
Yeah.
that they said, "No, this is the San Francisco police." And he's like, "Oh, well, they usually guard my wife," So, I mean, it was like all the things that he was doing to signal to them without signaling
Come
that he
help
was,
me.
yeah.
They're going, "Do
And
you need
everything's,
help?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know."
I
You
don't know
know?
if I do or not.
"Well,
So,
do you know this man?" "No.
yeah. And,
No,
and,
he came to see my wife. My wife won't be here for 3 days."
I mean, that to me was the trigger right there, right?
Yeah.
He's,
"My
and,
wife is Nancy Pelosi. Please,"
right, right.
"Is
Come
this the
help.
Capitol Police?"
Right. So, I mean, the right wing is still, Sean Hannity especially, is just detestably trying to turn this into something it isn't. And it doesn't help him to do it. I mean, because this is really a violent, like, they own this, right? Fox News and all, if you listen to the interview of the guy, which we're going to have tomorrow, they release some tapes of that too, where he talks about, he basically spews all the crap that's on Fox News and then says,
He says, "The fucking Democrats have been on a crime
sorry.
spree for 4 years, and I'm here to stop them."
Right.
We've been on a crime spree while Trump was in charge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds like
Well,
Trump didn't do a great job, did he?
It's
yeah.
it's kind of like the news yesterday about the Durham investigation, where
Yeah. Keep
Barr
talking.
and
I gotta get some
Durham
water.
swallowed all the conspiracy theories, lock, stock, and barrel, and put up this investigation to investigate the Russia investigation. And the only crime they turned up was a tip from Italian authorities about a financial crime that Trump might have committed.
Right. But bury that.
When they announced that there was a
Bury
criminal
that.
investigation,
Yeah.
it was of Trump.
Yeah.
I know. Crazy. I'm just like really pissed off at the whole Fox News right wing network this week because of the
Oh, I
violence
mean,
that they're
that's
sparking.
not a
I've been listening.
constant state of being for you. That is for me.
It is, but it's even more amplified this week because I've been listening to the January 6th report as an audiobook.
Mm.
Oh,
And
that's
I mean, we only got like a tiny fraction
right.
of
Right.
what actually happened in those hearings, right? I mean, they tried to give us like the high level overview, and they did. But when you hear all the different ways, like John Eastman this week, the Bar Association leveled 11 charges at him, and they want to disbar him, and that is the least that should happen to John Eastman. He should be in jail for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
He is at the top of the seditious conspiracy.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's first of all, more importantly, who's narrating? Ooh, nice mug.
It is a nice mug.
Yes, mug.
Mhm.
Who's reading the audio version of the January 6th report?
Me.
No. Who's? Oh, I thought you said you were listening to
on
it.
your audiobook. Who's the narrator?
Well, I'm listening to the audiobook.
Yeah, who is it?
Who's the narrator? Who's reading it?
Each chapter has a different narrator, and none of them are ones I know.
Oh, okay.
But they're all really good. They're all really good at what they do. So, like
Do
one
they
of
go
them,
into the footnotes? Because yesterday on Nicole Wallace, you had Ben Wittig saying that, you have to read the footnotes because that's
Yeah,
where the meat, there's like all this stuff that didn't get
I
into the
believe it.
report that
I
is like
believe it.
the real roadmap for DOJ to take of the
yeah,
things that they could not prove, they couldn't get the evidence of, but DOJ could.
Yep.
right. I don't think it reads the footnotes. I think it's just the text of but I have the hard copy, so I'll
Yeah,
probably go back
I
and
do
read
too.
that. But I wanted to have it on audiobook so that I could
yeah,
listen while I was walking. And I've been walking faster this week than I have for
yeah.
months.
I'll
I
bet you
bet.
have.
I'm so pissed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's just awful. It's awful. But and like I said, John Eastman, he's right at the top of everything.
Yeah.
Like the things he did are just like amazing that he can't get away with it. That's all. He can't. Like when
What
they
did
do
he do? Give me
seditious.
some examples. Put some meat on the bones for me.
So he just took lies, and so there's the memo, right? The
Right.
memo where
The
he said
Eastern memo.
basically that he constructed a fantasy where he said they could overturn the election, and even though like at every stage somebody was there to tell him no, you
Right.
can't do this, and the
Right.
people that were there were ones that had a lot of weight. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
Pat Cipollone, who was White House
Right.
counsel, and Mark Hirschman, who I mean, these were people that
And they did
had
tell him. It's not like they could tell him and they didn't, but they did tell him,
they
right?
did
Like,
tell him. They told
yeah,
him straight out. Mark
yeah,
Hirschman was the straight. I mean, that's what you saw in the hearings, right? But
right.
what you didn't see was his machinations behind the scenes, no matter
Okay.
that he'd been told that, right? To make it happen. There were letters going back and forth. He was there, the congressmen that are under investigation now, he was working with them. They were and their whole idea was that it was basically two ways that they were trying to overturn the election. Either they were going to put the fake electors
Right.
in, or they were going to disqualify the states that that had what they said were fake electors, and
Well,
then at,
disputed. Yeah.
right, and then they were going to declare Trump the winner because those would knock off of Biden's total, and Trump would have the rest of
Right.
them, and it would be the
How would they
majority.
disqualify the states? Just dispute the
They would
results?
have they would have a vote by the House,
Right,
and it would be by state delegation. And there are
right,
more Republican
Right,
state
right.
delegations than there
Yes,
are
hmm
Democratic
right,
state delegations,
right.
even
but
though the Democrats outnumber or
Yes, I
did
understand.
outnumber.
Yeah.
this was a coup. I mean, that is what they tried. They wanted to reinstall Trump, ignore the will of the voters, ignore
Mhm.
the Constitution. And that's the part that makes me the maddest about Eastman.
Yeah.
He's a lawyer, he knows better. And he
Yep.
wanted to ignore the Constitution and just say this could be done. And he admitted at one point that what he wanted to do wasn't really allowed by the Electoral Count Act, but he was going to do it anyway.
Don't
I
come on
mean,
my cat.
hi, cat butt.
Hello, kitty. Hello, kitty.
Okay,
Yeah, don't mind.
kitty.
I can't
What do
see you guys anymore, but I can hear you. So
you?
Oh dear. I think
So,
the cat has the right idea, Everything is messed up. Just pet me and everything will be fine.
yeah,
I don't
right,
know where you guys
exactly.
are anymore. I have to find you now.
Oh,
Oh,
we're
there
we're
you
here.
are.
Yeah.
Okay. But she
The
did type
kitty.
some things into the chat for you.
Oh,
I'll
yes, I
send you.
see.
So
Oh
anyway,
goodness.
sorry for that.
All right. So yeah. So anyway, I mean, John Eastman was of so far, other than Trump. What? Right? I mean, Trump was just he was willing to do whatever, right?
Yeah, well,
Whatever crazy
he has
thing people
Shinola
came.
about the machinations. He doesn't know how to pull anything off, but he just knows
Right.
people and tells them to get it done, right?
Right.
Just
I'm just going to leave it up to my Republicans in Congress.
right.
Right.
My guys will get it done.
Yeah, my guys will
Okay.
get it done.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
these Congress people under investigation by DOJ are the makeup of the new subcommittee, select committee on the weaponization of government, right?
Isn't this nice? Isn't that nice?
So yeah, so these are the guys that need to be in jail that are instead going to be overseeing. Talk about putting inmates in charge of the asylum. I mean, it's just
Well,
awful.
George Santos is in charge of the Small Business Association, isn't he now, or something, or
Small
whatever?
business. He's on the
That
small business committee.
Small Business Committee.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So he's. I don't know if Heron. Okay.
I'm
Anyway,
sorry about this.
that's all right.
This is
I
very.
think your cat sent hair through the computer and it's stuck
This
to
is
me.
very unusual. She's being really weird.
Yeah. So yeah, George Santos is overseeing PPP loans now. That's part of the committee's job, and I threw out there, and I still have a strong suspicion that Santos got his big bucks by getting a PPP loan.
That's
somebody said,
entirely plausible.
Well, it's public knowledge. Well, it's only public knowledge to the extent that you know what the name of the entity is, right? And the principles behind it. And it's pretty easy to, I mean, that's the whole thing. The fraud that happened in the PPP program happened because people got the bright idea to create fake entities and then borrow money
in their name.
Right, in their name. And because it was, a kind of intended to be an emergency program,
for actual small businesses.
Right, they streamlined the procedure by which you get the money. So, I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that George Santos got, $700,000.
You don't think he got it from a Russian oligarch?
Maybe. I mean, it's also possible that he laundered money. But the thing that here's the problem I have with that is if you're going to do that, why would you put it in something where you're going to be reporting to the federal government?
Because he's not right.
Well, I don't know. He's a pretty good liar.
He's a pretty good liar, but he doesn't seem to be very smart.
Yeah.
Well, is he though? Like, is he a good liar? All this stuff was found out. It's just that Republicans don't value honesty.
Yeah, and I guess Democrats didn't do a great job of opposition research either.
They did fine. They published the word out. They tried to get the word out. They published this information. Media didn't pick up on it.
So you know what? I don't buy that because Zimmerman, his opponent, is a PR guy. If anybody should know how to get that word out, it should have been Zimmerman, right? And he didn't. Yeah. So I just don't think they did a good job of doing the opposition and research. But that aside, I mean, you report if you're going to get $500,000 from a Russian oligarch, you put it in a shell company, right? And then you distribute those funds, you launder those funds through the shell company. That's what everybody does. I mean, folks do it.
Next time I talk to my Russian oligarch friends, I'm taking notes on how to do this.
Oh, right. So they invest in your shell company, right? And then your shell company pays out, maybe a salary, maybe some expenses.
But I thought this investment firm that he was running was his shell company.
Well, maybe, but it doesn't have to be the only one.
True.
I mean, they can out here in LA.
He's doing it on a shoestring. It costs money to open up these LLCs.
Not much.
$300 to open an LLC. It costs nothing.
He was only making $55,000 a year, and then $2 million.
Then
I can open an LLC. It's no problem.
Right. Suddenly he has, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we don't know where it came from. And I mean, really, they need to follow the money on this, and the only way to do that is to get it in front of the ethics committee or the FEC investigation.
I mean,
so you see the problem here, right? I mean, we have a guy who's a proven liar who probably laundered money to pay for his campaign so that he can now oversee the loans for small businesses. I mean, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. I don't even know what to say. So
yeah, it's bad, and it's going to get worse. And Kevin McCarthy did veto Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff from being on the Intelligence Committee as pure retaliation for Nancy Pelosi vetoing Jim Jordan, and who was the other one that she vetoed? You
Jim
know,
Banks.
Jim
Jim
Banks.
Banks, that's right.
And then they conveniently forget about the fact that it was Kevin who withdrew all other Republican participation from it.
Right.
And that so she did get 2 non-Trump Republicans on the committee, so it wasn't all Democrats.
Right.
So these 2 select committees that he has put together, or one select committee that he has put together, is it all Republicans? Is that still
Yeah.
part of the retaliation?
I think there are seats for 2 Democrats, I think,
Okay.
but I'm not sure because, you know, they're
So it's
these guys are children. So since there was only 2 Republicans on the January 6th committee, they're only going to let 2 Democrats on these select
and it's
committees.
just too bad they can't have Manchin and Cinema.
I know.
Manchin and Cinema, they're too busy yapping their flaps over at Davos, you know, and hobnobbing with the hoi polloi.
Manchin wants to delay the tax rebate for buying an EV.
Yeah, Manchin can stuff it.
Yeah,
I'm
really.
sorry. I'm over this guy, all the way over him. Especially when I got my gas bill yesterday for only heating my house, and it was like, you know, double what it normally is. It's crazy.
Yeah, they warned
And
us that was going to happen.
yeah, they did, but that doesn't make it any better that they're gouging us.
It does not. It does not.
So yeah, screw Manchin and Cinema. I mean, did you see her speaking at Davos like some kind of dilettante? I mean, it was just like, I am so happy to be here with all you billionaires.
All you rich people.
She's not running. I'd be willing to bet you she's not going to run again.
Guaranteed.
She'll get some cushy lobbyist job and be happy as the little clown.
She just wants to be rich.
Do her triathlons and she can, you know, wear her stupid clothes and do whatever, right? And that's fine by me. Ruben Gallego is running.
Yes.
In Arizona, and he's great. He's no bullshit. He's great. So good. Let him run.
Yeah. What a disappointment she was.
No lie. Like she's another liar like Tulsi Gabbard. You know, she lied her way to where she is. She used resources she shouldn't have ever been given or entitled to. And yeah. So bye, Kirsten. See ya. Don't want to be ya.
Yeah, but who's gonna challenge Gallego? Who's gonna be the Republican?
Carrie Lake. That's my guess. It'll be Carrie Lake.
You think she's going to give up on just declaring herself governor and run for Congress?
Well, I think she'll declare herself governor and then run for Senate too. You know,
Senate,
like
Senate. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, but
Yeah,
Arizona.
We're not out of the woods with Arizona yet. Arizona is disturbing.
I don't have a lot of. I don't have a feeling one way or the other for how Arizona would go.
The Republicans have a narrow majority in their state legislature, and they've just gotten rid of any kind of transparency for their elected officials.
Oh, great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all of the Freedom of Information Act type of things that reporters were able to get, which is how we found out about the Ginny Thomas texts and, you know, what was happening with Cyber Ninja.
They can't let that happen again.
Right. That'll never happen again. So I mean,
all done.
Arizona's still fraught, you know?
Well, it is, but I will say this. I think that there's a pocket of there's like 3 distinct sets of people in Arizona. There's a pocket of extremists.
Yes.
That you're never going to do anything about. I mean, they're extremists. They're always going to be extremists. They're whatever. Then there's the kind of the mavericky independent Republicans.
Yeah.
The McCain, what we'll call the McCain Republicans. Yeah. And they have always consistently outnumbered the wingnuts. Okay. Right. And then there's what I would call the silent voters, which are the Hispanic and the Democrats, basically the progressive voters, and they are out there and they do vote, and they're the ones that have turned the tide in the last couple of elections. And Ruben Gallego is a great candidate for them to get behind because he's no bullshit. He's straight up. He's an ex-Marine. So,
Yeah.
he's got the military cachet that
Got
would
that street
maybe
cred, yeah.
that
He
those
became
mavericky
Republican.
Republicans might want to go ahead
Yeah.
but I mean, nobody should assume that Ruben Gallego as senator is going to be some like Bernie like left guy. He's not, because he represents a state that's got a
Right.
whole different, a whole universe of people, and he's
Yeah.
got to appeal
Not
to
for
all of
nothing.
them.
I don't want a Bernie left guy. I don't want that.
Yeah, well, I don't either, but
Neither
I'm
do
just
I.
saying, a lot of people think that, like, our disappointment with Kirsten Sinema is not that she wasn't, like she didn't do
Wasn't
left things. It's
agreeing, but
because
she's
she
not.
didn't do anything that
She
was,
didn't do
I mean,
anything. She actively worked against. To
right,
me,
exactly.
she blocked things. She was a counterproductive force
Mhm.
in the Senate. She made things harder,
Right.
and she made us work
She and
for
Joe
things where
Manchin.
she was supposed to facilitate, that she
Right.
was supposed to help us, smooth the way for, and
Right.
that to me is unforgivable. That's that's worse than doing nothing in my mind.
I agree.
Yeah.
She literally put up roadblocks, and that's
We can never
so
forget that.
Yeah, right. Oh, and it wasn't just, I mean, it was standing up, flouncing,
Yeah.
flouncing to that
she preens and
on
she
our initiative.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. It's gross. It's
so that's she cares about nothing but herself, and that's
right.
All I can say is Planned Parenthood needs to do a better job of vetting their candidates. That's 2 candidates now that we got screwed on that were Planned
who is
Parenthood.
the other one?
Planned
Remind me.
Parenthood and Fox News also, or
Yeah.
not Fox News. Emily's List.
Emily's
Yeah,
list.
Emily's List. That's right. It was Planned
Yeah.
Parenthood and Emily's List.
Hmm.
Yeah, no
They
shit.
didn't do a job with her or Tulsi.
No.
Yeah.
So, but I guess you take what you can get. But in her case, just terribly disappointing. I don't know. I just, go away, Kirsten. Go be a lobbyist. Let us have a real senator in Arizona who's not Carrie Lake, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Carrie Lake is only going to appeal to the wingnuts, more or less.
I don't even want her to be a lobbyist. Like, I just feel like she doesn't, like, she needs to go like be a receptionist in a she needs to be a receptionist in like a high class
Brothel?
clothing store for rich people or something. Like,
Well, she took that class on winemaking. Maybe she should just go to a winery. And
that's what she needs. That's her speed.
Well, she does the her fundraisers at wineries too. So wine
Let her
caves.
develop that talent. Go with
Right.
God. Go.
Okay. GTFO.
Yeah, that too.
so I don't know about you guys, but over the weekend with the Monterey Park massacre,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the one in Half Moon Bay, and the
Mhm.
people that keep track of these things, noting that it's January 27th, and we've had more mass shootings than there have been days in the year.
Yep.
39.
And it's the guns.
It is the guns. Of course it's the
Someone
guns.
else did did an analysis that I felt was like self-evident, but someone's got to do it, so you've got some empirical fact.
Sure.
Right.
96% of these shootings are done by men
Mhm.
who've had
Domestic
something trigger
violence.
their anger, and it's the easy access to guns.
Yep. So California, in response to this, just to put a little bit of hope on it, 2 California senators have introduced a bill to require mandatory liability insurance for all gun owners. And it would be very specific as to they'd have to cover all the injuries and any losses of the victims of that are killed with their guns, and everything like that. So it's pretty specific, and it's definitely a step in the right direction. I mean, You can insure guns, you can insure bullets, I don't know. But mandatory insurance is a start. The only thing that I have an issue with on this bill is that those people that have illegal guns, the ones that have the AR-15s and stuff that
Right.
they're
They're
buying
not going to.
out of state, they're not going to insure those guns.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be some sort of pool for uninsured gun owners, I guess,
Yeah.
right? Or some sort of tax that happens at some point or
And
something.
the suicidal gun nut that wants to go out in a blaze of fire and be famous isn't gonna
Mhm.
care.
Right. So they're not there's some things that aren't going to be prevented, but you have to ask yourself
But maybe the
whether
parents of the 6-year-old would have
right,
done a better job of securing the gun.
their weapon
Oh
or
God, that 6-year-old.
yeah, yeah, don't even go there. My I can't talk about that without worrying about my daughter,
Of course
you
not.
know,
It's
cuz
terrifying.
that's her environment, right? I
Yeah,
mean, she
Yeah.
works with these
My
kids.
sister's environment. It's my
yeah.
Yeah.
sister's environment too.
And you think that
So,
teaching, that's a nice, safe profession to go into,
Oh,
you know?
when see now I never thought I mean in all honesty, I never thought that, but
yeah. Well, and I mean, in my daughter's case, she's working with the kids that are the problem kids. Like the
Right,
6-year-old would have had an interventionist like
right,
her to
right.
be between the teacher and the student and the parents. It's
yeah.
kind of, and that's what she does. So it's really terrifying to think that there could be
So
some
would
kid out there that had a gun. I mean, she is already
so would this
restraining him when,
bill have held the parents of that 6-year-old child accountable for this
yes,
teacher's medical bills? And is that what we're talking
right,
about now, for
Yeah,
her
right,
medical bills and for her trauma and her lost
mhm,
wages and
right,
all
all that.
that? Assuming she has lost wages, I don't even know, but for example.
she's suing the school district,
And she said, well,
as she
she
should,
And
better. She
rightly
has a good
so.
case. She has
because
a really good
nobody
case.
listened to her.
And will
Right.
they, are they liable, but I'm asking about this law specifically. Like, is it,
Mhm.
would that,
So this is for California. So,
yeah,
but
I know.
again,
I'm just,
it's a model for the country.
yeah.
But yes, it would cover lost wages, lost, it's like car insurance,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So it would cover all that plus, pain and suffering,
Yeah.
basically. So yeah, I mean that, and I hope it goes through. I mean, it's
I
something.
do too.
It's not going to have deal. It's not going to be everything. But
No.
it's and I know that the argument is gonna be, well, the responsible gun owners will pay for the insurance. And yes, that's true, but how
Same
many
thing for car
responsible gun
insurance.
owners have we seen responsible gun owners do
Yeah,
stupid things with their
yeah,
guns, right?
yeah.
So,
The
yeah.
thing is that nothing will never be able to have nice things as long as we've got this Supreme Court that
Oh,
Mm.
seems
man, no
to
shit.
think that, everybody should have an AR-15.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, let's just call it what it is. This is a corrupt Supreme Court,
Yeah,
is what this is.
yeah.
I mean, I nearly choked today when I saw who they hired to do their outside investigation to verify their inside investigation.
Who
Did you
did
hear
they
about
hire?
former Homeland Security Secretary? Hold
Michael
up.
Chertoff.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I
How
mean,
impartial that's going to be.
yeah, right. I mean, so I mean, and there's a tie. Roberts has ties to Chertoff. So it's
Sure, of
like
course he does.
they didn't
Yeah,
disclose
no,
that
that's
before
gonna
they
be
hired
super
him.
impartial. I'm gonna swallow everything that investigation.
I mean, roll your eyes, right? Michael Chertoff. Yeah. So,
Oh,
I mean, I guess they could have hired Ken Cuccinelli, but I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Chris
not much
Kobach,
difference
you
between them.
know?
Oh, yeah, Chris Kobach. So, yeah, anyway, I mean, it's just like, what a joke. They're corrupt. They're just utterly corrupt, and the court needs to be expanded and it needs to be cleaned up. And the only way
yeah.
to do that is for the Senate to actually like make that happen.
And so we need to elect more senators, more
Yep.
Democrats
Yep.
into the Senate.
Yep.
And as we
And
keep
better ones.
getting told by the news media, the map doesn't look good for Democrats
Oh,
in
fuck that.
2024.
Fuck the
The
media.
media kept telling us that the map didn't look good for us in 2022, and that
Yeah, it sure
we
did.
were going to have a red tsunami, and that didn't happen either.
That's right. I'm not listening to the media on that. I'm not listening to
Speaking
them.
of right-wing media, DirecTV dumped Newsmax, and then the following day announced they were picking up another right-wing cable news network that's even worse.
What I don't even
What?
know which one. Because there's been so much noise about Newsmax getting dropped. I don't even know who they picked up. But
I
it's
don't
like,
know the name of the network, but one of their stars is Dana Lash.
oh Lord.
And she's going to be on DirecTV now.
Oh gosh. Oh.
Sorry, girls. I know you have a personal connection to her.
Oh, we do.
I know. Sorry. She's
Oh
another one who
man.
used to she used to dance with Sanity, didn't she? But
No,
The first.
she
It
pretended.
features Bill O'Reilly and Dana Lash.
There we go. There we go. Bill
Oh,
O'Reilly.
God.
Bill O'Reilly and Dana Lash. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh God, he's going to be salivating. Oh, how disgusting! Why would she do? Oh, gross.
Oh God.
Oh, he's such a
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah. The first, a conservative leaning opinion and commentary network. Oh, please.
What
There's
I
nothing.
want to know is how is there so much audience for this wing nuttery and like nothing for us? I mean, the closest thing we've got to a left-wing network is the Young Turks, and nobody watches that. I mean,
Right.
Well, for good reason.
I mean,
I
that's a
know,
wing that
but
he's
that's
a Republican
left-wing
too.
wing nuttery. Yeah, that's
Sort
left-wing
of.
wing where it's horseshoe, you know?
Yeah,
It's,
I don't go near the Young Turks with like a 50-yard
neither do
pole.
I.
But
Neither do I.
I mean, we have the Daily Show, and that's it. That's it's
We have a few people on MSNBC.
yeah, that's basically it.
So
The media is not liberal, or
The
justice
New York
doesn't
Times
sell.
isn't liberal.
Justice does not sell.
No.
right. Well,
And then,
that and
Quality
Washington
doesn't
Post
sell.
just hired some National Review guys.
Who did?
yeah,
Washington Post.
Oh no.
it's not been sold though, right? I mean, that's rumors still, as far as I know.
That the Washington Post is getting sold.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
have
hadn't
not
heard
heard that
that.
rumor.
Yeah.
Great.
Going back to the question you asked, which was why are there all these like this
Why is there
pool
such
of
an
right
audience?
wing crap that can be pulled up? It's because that's where the money is,
I know.
right?
Yes.
I mean, the
Because
billionaires fund it,
the
Yep.
billionaires
and
fund it, and the rubes buy all the
Yeah.
gold and supplements,
right,
and smart skeptical people who tend to look for facts aren't interested in that.
right.
And
And the audience comes from rural areas where they don't have any internet or high speed internet, so they're not getting anything streaming. They're just, and DirecTV is satellite, so I mean, that's why there was such a fuss about Newsmax getting dropped. And the reason Newsmax got dropped is because they wanted AT&T to pay them carriage fees.
right.
And AT&T said no. It's one thing if you want to be, you want to put your channel on here for free, but if you want us to pay
Right.
for it, we're not gonna. And
Right. So
this new one
is not going to charge carriage fees. So
exactly.
that Cokes or somebody are behind it.
Oh yeah, somebody's behind. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't tell. I remember in 2010, like digging up. This was when before right side broadcasting became a thing, but it
Mhm.
was funded by like the Hollywood guys that were conservative. And
Mhm.
I remember writing about it then and saying, this is bad, right? It's Fox News is bad enough. Now we've got this streaming thing, and the Newsmax was getting their funding, and it's just they get a lot of money, and that's how they're able to do it. And we don't
And
have the same network on our side at all.
No.
and if you couple it with the fact that humanities education has
Right.
been gutted in the
Yeah.
public schools in favor
Yeah.
of, STEM, which is my job. I'm not against STEM funding, but the push, at the expense of
It's not
humanities and
balanced.
critical thinking
Yeah.
and history and understanding what you
Mhm.
read
Yeah.
and what you hear, and um, the need for media literacy is greater than ever, and but the emphasis on it is zero in schools. And so, you have an entire generation that's been brought up to not be able to hear something that comes out of Jim Jordan's mouth and be persuaded by anything other than the volume of his voice. And it's it's really disheartening.
Well,
Yeah,
and it's
it
But that's
is.
started
part of why, I mean, that's partly
with the
why they
gray
have such
area.
that's they have created an audience.
Yeah.
All, those that factor has really done a lot to help create the audience if they for these people, because they're vulnerable to that to that rhetoric. They haven't been taught how to think
Right.
and how to interpret what's
Well,
being told to them and how it's being told to them.
on top of that, they're highly suspicious of
Yeah.
anybody trying to teach their kids how to think. It's
Yeah,
why they don't like
exactly. I
woke
mean, 20
colleges.
years ago or 27 years ago when I was teaching 8th grade, I taught a whole unit on propaganda, and my
Mhm.
first lesson in that unit was about the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
That was my first lesson in my whole propaganda unit, and the point of the lesson is that your earliest propaganda in this country is being taught the Pledge of Allegiance. And
You would not be able to teach that unit
I would never
today
be able to
in
teach
in
that
many
today.
states.
After 9/11, that
You
would
would
have been impossible.
Yeah.
mhm.
The indoctrination. And you know what? I willingly participated in the indoctrination after 9/11 because of the feeling of we are under attack. We need to stick together, you
Oh,
know?
sure. I walked around saying, "Why do they hate us? Why do they hate us?" Like an idiot. I mean, I understand now. I mean, I'm not saying anybody deserved it. Nobody deserved it. But I mean, I sure, I have, I recognize that our shock and rawness after that unthinkable attack was manipulated to
Oh, yeah.
support things that under normal circumstances we would never have supported.
Right.
Let no crisis,
Yeah,
it's an
Right.
opportunity.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, so I really do think that that's part of why that audience is so big.
Yes, it is. It is definitely part of it. But I mean, part of it's just that that's being shoveled in large quantities.
It's being shoveled in
All the
huge quantities to people who don't have jobs or to retirees who are sitting now have nothing better to do than sit home all day and watch it.
right. I
Not
mean, I
just
see
cable, it's YouTube. I was reading another piece, about
that YouTube algorithm
about
is
the Mont
scary.
about the Monterey Park shooting, and I think it was an LAist, but it was a Chinese American who was asking her father, you know, if he needed help paying the cable bill, and he's got, "Oh, I don't need cable anymore. I've got YouTube." And she looked at what he was watching on YouTube, and it
Oh,
was
yeah.
all videos in Mandarin with disinformation.
Ugh.
and the
About
algorithms just
about
showing
America? Like, about things going on in this country, or
COVID, the republic, politics, just one after the other. And the 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 media environment now is so vast and so complicated. It's very difficult to wrap your mind around
yeah.
all of the ways.
Yeah. I mean, the one of the things that came out in the last election, and this has been done before, but it was done again, was that the outcropping of uh, supposed news sites
Mhm.
that were not news,
Right,
right? They
right,
local news sites that were
right.
actually just right wing propaganda,
Yeah.
but they made them look like local news sites so that people would go and read
People would read
their
them.
local
There is
news
no
because
actual local news anymore.
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways that this happens, and I don't know what the answer is to other than one-on-one, debunkery wherever you can. What the answer is to it. I mean, there's some people, like old people, for example, that watch that stuff. You couldn't change their minds if you tried.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah,
wouldn't matter how much debunkery you did, they would still believe that the election was stolen because that's what they've been fed,
right.
over and over again. So anyway, I mean, we have a lot to cover, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it's depressing.
Uh, well, let's see if there's anything on this list that wasn't depressing.
Well, we should talk about the guy arrested in New York, right? The head of the FBI counter intel division in the New York City office, who I'm surprised this isn't a
Charles
bigger story.
McGonigal. It should be a bigger story. And it
Yeah.
really bothers me that very few, again, our news media, very few people in the news media are connecting the dots to the fact that Charles McGonigal was in charge of the FBI, of the New York division of the FBI at the time that James Comey had to reveal that he'd reopened the Hillary Clinton laptop, the Anthony Weiner laptop thing,
Mhm.
um, investigation that derailed her presidency,
Right.
derailed that election, and
I
made
mean, I think there's a lot there we need to know
there is
about.
a lot
That's one
there,
thing that
you know,
definitely we need to know about is that. But
right?
there's a lot that a lot of leaks that were coming out of that office and
Yeah.
stuff,
Mm.
that right there at the end, and Rudy was
So,
involved. I
yeah.
mean,
So
there's
this guy was working for Oleg
He was
Deripaska.
working for the
And
Russians.
he was supposed to be investigating Oleg Deripaska.
right,
Yeah.
and he
This
was laundering
was
money.
the yeah,
I mean, he was doing all sorts of, and it comes out today. I haven't finished reading the article even yet, but he had a girlfriend in New
yes,
York while he
yes.
was still married, and he was like, she noticed him having bags of cash. And she
Ugh,
asked him once about it, and he gave her some bogus excuse, and she figured, well, he is like doing counter intel, so I'm sure he actually needs to have these bags of cash, and stuff. And she has her own set of problems.
right,
There's
right.
like,
I mean,
like they're
she
gonna,
was a house guest of Rudy Giuliani's for a while, and
right? Yeah, I
so
mean,
she's a true believer, on
mhm,
the other side.
right,
Like,
And I guess she got pissed off enough at him that she let people know that he was dirty.
right. She sent anonymous letters, and she
Yeah.
did. I mean, she admits it in this interview. She basically says, like, I was drinking. I did a lot of things I shouldn't have done while I was drinking. But you know what? He is dirty as they come, and we need
Yeah.
answers on this, like big
Yes.
time. The Senate,
Yes.
and I really want the Senate to open an investigation into this because I want to counterbalance some of what
what the
the
House
House
is
is
trying
doing.
to do. Yeah.
Right? I mean, why should they
It's
get all the press, right?
no
I mean,
fun.
this is a
They
perfect
shouldn't be getting any
opportunity.
press at all.
No, they shouldn't.
Exactly.
It's
And this is a
baloney.
perfect opportunity for the
Yep.
Senate to open an investigation and conduct their own,
Yeah.
right? So
Okay,
they need to
Chuck,
do that.
listen to us.
Get on it, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Christopher Wray should be fired
Yeah.
also because
I
this
don't
should
know why
never
he's still
happen.
there. Why
Well,
did
so
Biden keep him in place? I mean, is it an
because
attempt to appear bipartisan? Is that part of his bipartisan,
He's
like,
supposed to have a
political kick?
7-year term that,
10.
10-year term that's supposed to be like a, nonpartisan, not dependent on an administration.
I mean, that was the
I mean,
point of
I
the 10-year
understand that, but
term.
isn't there enough to have I don't know.
Well, I mean, so Trump fired Comey, and he shouldn't have, right? There
Right,
was no reason for him to do that, and that was
right,
really just a partisan,
correct.
blatantly partisan thing.
Yes.
And I think that Christopher Wray has not been egregious enough to warrant
He doesn't warrant firing yet. All right.
firing.
Because President Biden does want to make things normal again, even
Mhm.
Right,
if he can't.
right. He wants to try.
He's
He's
gonna
Give it
behave normally himself anyway.
Can we
right.
talk about the economy? Can we
Yeah.
talk about how the
Sure.
economy is just humming along? Goldman Sachs today made an announcement that aside from the UK, which is a total mess, they don't see any recessions happening anywhere in the world.
Huh.
I'm
Who'd have
shocked.
thunk? Because I was under the impression that we were about to have, like, a massive recession. Isn't that what
Me
everyone
too.
was telling us?
Yes.
Yes, and they're still telling you
And they're
that.
wrong?
They're
I
still telling you
They
that.
were wrong. They are right. I heard it again this week. I couldn't believe it. It
Again,
was
because it's
like,
better for them if we're anxious and upset. It's better for these talking heads, these forecasters, if we are concerned. Drama sells.
well, Susie, who writes for our site, suggested that it was more to do with getting the employees in line,
Yeah,
right? And putting them back in their place, right? Because
that's what it
one of the
is.
things that has happened is that wages, even though we had some inflation, wages are higher
Wages.
than inflation. So actually, employees are netting more.
Uh-huh.
Even though they are paying some more for goods and services, they're still netting out more.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
yeah,
That's
so
good.
that's a good thing, and
Yeah.
that's because there were demands for more wages, and the workforce is shrinking, so they have to be paid. So all
But if
these
we don't have immigration and we've got people dying from COVID, it's gonna shrink.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, and the baby boomer generation is retiring.
Yep.
Yep.
So hello, that's all of us are moving out of the workforce. So I mean, the economy is not going to collapse. You're right. UK is a mess, but that's the Brexit mess. I mean, it's gonna.
It's not just the Brexit mess. It is
It,
12 years of conservative Tory leadership and austerity.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Rod Stewart
austerity
even.
doesn't help the economy.
Yeah.
No,
It's
no,
great
it
for
doesn't.
billionaires, but it doesn't help the economy. Billionaires
Not.
and oligarchs.
Yep. Agreed. So
Hmm.
yeah, Rod Stewart even came out and said, "Change the government." He's a Tory.
Huh.
Rod Stewart, the singer?
Yeah.
I didn't know he
So
lived there anymore. I thought he lived here.
I didn't
I
know he
thought he
was a
did
Tory.
too. Yeah.
That's disappointing.
Well, we just published an article on it if you're interested. But anyway,
I'm always I am interested.
yeah. So anyway, I mean, the economy is doing really well, and inflation's going down, and the gross national product in this country went up in the last quarter 2.9%.
Yeah.
Right.
And and yet we still keep hearing every day. I hear somebody else say that we're headed for a recession. I don't
Yeah.
understand it. I just don't understand it because growth is happening. And the infrastructure bill, the one that I've criticized so hard, is definitely driving some of this because
Yeah.
do you see what you hear is the tech sector is doing a bunch of layoffs, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because they were possibly overstaffed.
Yeah.
But the jobs that are being created, the ones that are they're being created in red states,
Yeah.
and they're good paying union jobs.
Industrial jobs in
Yeah,
red states. Joe Biden,
That's what
right.
he
and
promised.
that's what
And
he
that's what
promised,
he's done.
but
Yeah.
he doesn't,
He didn't get credit for it, but it's what he did.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, I mean, I just like sing the praises of the economy because it's a
Yeah,
big
'cause
deal.
But I remember in the '80s when the economy was bad and just not
Me
understanding
too.
how the stock market would go up on
Mhm.
news of layoffs. And, that investors love to see them cut their bottom line and
yeah,
have people lose jobs without caring that the economy as a whole runs on the demand from employed people buying stuff, you
right.
Right.
know?
Yeah, it's such a disconnect.
And as someone who never took an economics class, it was like, but this does not make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
And, and it still does not make sense. But that, when our economic reporting is centered on what investors want, it's very skewed, you know?
Yeah.
It is. It is definitely. But I mean, also, I just feel like the stock market is irrational generally. I mean,
Well,
like
that's
it
true.
rejoices when there's layoffs, and then it's just like with it anticipates things, and when it doesn't happen, it goes down. It's like
Doesn't like uncertainty. If
right.
things are
It's
going
like a toddler.
smoothly and exactly. When things are going smoothly, it just chugs along, and people are
Mhm.
happy.
Right. Right.
So,
So,
you
oh
guys,
goodness.
we only have a few minutes left, and Aliza, I'm sorry. We were, we had a big one to make time for, and we didn't, and I
Yeah,
apologize.
that's okay. We'll maybe talk about it next week.
Let's talk about it next week. This was a crazy week.
It
As
was
It's
a
insane.
crazy week.
I was
I
taking
would
things
just
back.
like I would like people to keep their eyes on Atlanta,
Yeah.
Okay.
and I would like them to read about the police killing of Manuel Esteban Pais Terran. He was protesting a big cop training facility. A lot of environmentalists are protesting this happening in Atlanta. He was killed earlier in the month, and it's a big deal, and it's an awful thing. And what the cops are trying to build in Atlanta at the amid protests of the community against their wishes, and this is a bipartisan thing, that they that got the that this thing got the approval, bipartisan approval. I would just like people to look into it, and I know we didn't have time to talk about it, and we'll talk about it next week. um, just awful. First police killing of an environmental protester happened this month. So
Yeah. Okay.
So on that happy note,
Oh man,
let's
it's been
hope
a week.
next week is a quieter one, ladies.
please,
This week was the fire hose of bullshit. That's what I called it. It's just like
yeah,
it just came at you every day, more of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
So, hoping you all have a nice weekend
Thank you,
and that next
yes.
week is not as
everybody.
frantic as this week was.
Yay. I'd
Um,
like that.
and that's our show.
All right.
Join us next week at momocrats.buzzsprout.com, our YouTube channel, or find us on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And be sure to check our Facebook page for updates. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Aliza and Karoli saying bye-bye for the MOMocrats.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
MOMocrats MOMochat is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.